Hello and welcome to another episode of Rebel Rogue, where today I will be showing you how I paint blood angels. Rebel Rogue. For those of you new to the world of Warhammer 40,000, the blood angels are a Space Marine chapter like no other. Specialists in melee and close and jump assaulting, they dive into the battlefield and start killing things in close combat. Their armour is a blood red colour, symbolising the blood of Sanguinus, their Primarch, who was slain at the end of the Horus Heresy by Horus himself. So today I will be showing you how to paint the armour of the Sons of Sanguinius. To begin, I undercoated this model with a black airbrush primer and went over it with a mid-grey to get a zenithal highlight on it. But to begin with the base coats, we'll be using Mephiston Red to base coat all the armour panels. As always, giving the pot a good shake, I've transferred mine from the standard Citadel pot into a dropper bottle because it basically improves them. So giving it a good shake and then thinning it slightly if you want to. I've just got a wet palette, sorry if I'm boasting or anything, but it's a very easy thing to make and I'm hoping to make a video on how to make them. I'm taking my Boldmere size 5 brush with quite a large brush. Should be able to get all the areas. And I'm taking my Mephiston Red and just carefully go over each and every one of the armour panels. You don't have to be too careful with this, just try not to get it in the joints, but if you do, it's no big deal. You may notice throughout this video that the red on the top surfaces may be darker than the red on the bottom. Now, don't worry too much about the trim, as blood angels, well, you can paint the trim later on, but I'm sorry if it was off camera. Paint the trim like so. All the armour. The trim on blood angels are easy to paint for the simple fact that the trim is red, the same colour red as the armour. So you don't actually have to paint it, but if I pull up an example here of a lieutenant I converted, you can see that I did paint the trim. I haven't finished him yet, but no, by no means finished, but just as an example, you can paint the trim if you want to. It's not strictly necessary. I'll finish off this base coat and be back for the next step. The next colour that we want to use is this Panzer Ace's German tank crew, and we'll be painting this onto all of the joints in the armour and onto the bolt gun casing, or the bolt rifle casing. I'm using a smaller brush, a Boldmere size 1, so just any brush with a fine point will do. The joints are the joints here in the knees. You don't have to be too careful. You can see that I can touch this splodge up here. I can touch it up later on, painting it into these joints and onto the belt. You will also want to make sure that you paint the bolt rifle casing. That being all of these parts here, leaving the bottom of the magazine, and the supercharger here, or the overcharger, and all of the bottom parts and top parts here. If you were going for a slightly fancier colour scheme, you could, and I have done this, you can paint this part here in gold perhaps, and the bottom in black. I have done that before, but the miniature I did it on was an Inquisitor, and it's a bit out of reach at the minute. So, yeah. I will complete this, and I'll be back later on. Just quick zoom in, so you can see. I did forget to mention that you can also paint the shoulder trims. I haven't. You don't actually have to. And to paint the chest eagle. Now, I have had to put this black foam board behind this because my camera does not like focusing on a chopping board, on a cutting mat. Not a chopping board, that's a different thing. There we are. Brought it into focus. Right. So, that was just a quick thing. Back to the video. The next colour we want to use, if I can get this to focus, is Vallejo Natural Steel model colour. It's a good steel colour. But a couple of points about it. A, don't put it on a wet palette, it will separate and go nasty. And B, don't use natural brushes, they will be pretty much natural hair brushes, they'll pretty much be demolished. So this will be painted on the magazine, here, at the bottom, the back of the gun, bolt rifle thing, the scope can be painted in this colour, so can the muzzles, and so can any little pipey details around the face. You can, if you also want to, pick out the details on the backpack, such as the tubes here. I think they're vents or something. You may pick them out, and the vents up here. There is also a piece of backpack. If you've left the backpack separate in sub-assemblies, you may be able to paint this bit right at the back. So, if you can't, don't worry about it. I'll do that and be back for the next part. So, as you can see, I have picked out all the silver details. Not very well, but they're getting on there. So, if you can then touch this up, going back where you've spilt colour. I have painted the eye lenses silver as well. You can go back and touch up where you've spilt colour, such as here, I've spilt some grey onto the red. You can touch this up and then you could have a finished blood angel with 3 colours. But if you want to take it to that next level, touch it up and then come back for a wash stage. So I'll go back and I'll touch this up and I'll be back for a wash. And some painting of additional details, such as the strange flag on the bolt gun, the thing on the bolt gun, that could be picked out as well. So I'll touch this up and see you when I'm done. We now can move on to the wash stage. Sorry, it was just adjusting my mic if there was any noise there. But for this wash, we'll be using Citadel's Agrax Earthshade to wash all the armour, and a black Nuln Oil if you want to, or another sort of black wash. You could use, say, Army Painted Dark Tone, or my preferred use is Vallejo Gaming Black, but as I've run out, I have this homemade weak black wash. We'll be using that for all the grey areas in between the legs and all the metal parts of the model. The eye lenses we can be washing with, or inking rather, tinting, with Vallejo Gaming Green. Let's get to it. With all of our washes now applied, this model is pretty much ready for the tabletop. As you can see, I have messed up on the washes there, let it pool too much, but I can tidy that up. At this point, I'm going to explain how to take this model just that step further. Firstly, you could reset the base coat of the Mephiston Red. If you are unsure of how to do this, there'll be a video linked in the top right hand corner. If I remember to link them, which I should at some point. Someone might have to remind me, but either which way. You could reset the Mephiston Red. You could also reset you could put perhaps an edge highlight on the grey, or you could just leave it and then it will look far more black. You could reset the silver. These are just ways of doing it. And you could, this little tassel thing here, whatever you want to call that, banner, you could paint that in a khaki and shade it with Agrax Earthshade or another brown wash. You could also, as I've been slightly lazy, you can pick out these details here, and if you have any purity seals, you can paint the parchment part in Vallejo Bone White, shade with a brown wash, and paint the red part with sort of darker Mephiston, a red darker than Mephiston Red, or you could use, say, a purple, which might look quite nice. A sort of more reddy purple. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you found this video very useful. I did notice, just before I went to do this little clip, that Warhammer TV have beaten me to it, doing Blood Angels and Space Marines as a whole, but any which way, I'm hoping to do a whole playlist on, or series on, painting Space Marines. So, until then, don't forget, like, share and subscribe, and check out the Rebel Rogue Miniatures Facebook page. I might see if I can put a link in the description, but any which way. Goodbye. You might find any of these videos useful, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button if you don't want to miss an upload.